Playdate with Art. This month our theme is Splat painting. So get ready to get a little messy later. First, let's go to the Milwaukee Art Museum in a really special area where we're going to take a look at a colorful piece of art. Let's go.
Hi, I'm in a really special part of the museum today. This is called the Hertzfeld Center. It's for photography, print, and drawings. And this is a special place where scholars and people doing research on art can come and look at pieces that aren't on display in the galleries. Today I'm next to this piece, which is a print that is Untitled by Sam Francis, and let's take a closer look. So the first thing I notice about this piece is, well, it's really big. You can see I'm standing next to it. It's very tall, and it has a lot of colors. And when I look closely, I can see lots of different shapes and types of lines. I can see some splashes of color where it looks like the ink was sort of thrown across the paper. I can also see blobs of color. It looks like maybe the ink was like dropped down, maybe from high up, and it landed down. I can also see some lines where maybe the artist moved his arms above the paper to drop it down. And then if I look at the bottom, there's a lot of color that's all sort of smushed close together. I wonder how we made all of those different shapes. Let's go back and learn how we can make our own colorful, splashy work of art inspired by this piece.
Wow, I really liked that colorful print. Wasn't it cool to see? And wasn't that a cool part of the museum? I'll tell you a secret. That was my first time inside there. We're actually going to go to another special place for our musical guest today. We're going to visit with my friend Katie at the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music, and she's going to play some music that is sort of like the sound version of the colors that we saw, where there's lots of different things going on and mixing together. So let's go visit her now.
Hi, my name is Katie, and I'm at the Wisconsin Conservatory of Music, where I'm going to play a couple of pieces that are from a set called Fugitive Visions, which means that they happen very quickly and then they're gone. These pieces are by a man named Sergei Prokofiev, who was born in what we now know as Ukraine. And these pieces are full of surprises. You're going to hear some very loud, exciting moments like this. And you're going to hear some slow, smooth, unexpected sounds like this. I like to imagine that the fast ones are paint hitting a canvas, and that the slow ones are like looking through a kaleidoscope while all the colors are changing, or watching paint hit the canvas in slow motion. So you're going to hear some fast sounds and some slow sounds, but these are all from Fugitive Visions by Prokofiev.
it's so cool to visit Katie? And isn't she such a good piano player? I loved hearing all the different speeds and volumes of music all mixing together, just like the painting we're going to make today. So, as I mentioned earlier, today our splat painting is going to get a little messy. So, one thing I would definitely recommend is to wear a smock or some old clothes that it's okay if they get a little dirty. If it's nice outside, you might even want to do this one outside. What I'm doing here is I'm using this metal cookie sheet, which has the rim around the edge. That'll keep things a little cleaner. You also might want to put down a tablecloth or some newspaper to help keep your work area clean. So what we need today is some paper. I have watercolor paper. This is a little bit heavier than regular printer paper, but if you want to use printer paper, that's fine. I also have paint, and the trick with this kind of painting, oh, hi, Oliver. The trick with this kind of painting is you need the paint to be a little bit runny. So if you have liquid watercolors, or if you have watercolors like these, I have these like tubes of watercolor paint. And what I did was I put a little bit into these paper cups and I mixed them up with some water so that they're a little runny. You want your paint to be a little bit drippy and not too thick. These are tempera paints. I put some of the paint into these little cups, and I'm just going to add some water to get them a little runnier. I don't know if you can see, my blue has some water in it, so it's a little bit runnier than you can see the orange is a little thicker. You can also use food coloring. You could put a little water into a paper cup or bowl or on a paper plate. Um, put a few drops of food coloring in with your water, and that'll get some nice runny color. And then we're going to use some different tools today. So I have paintbrushes in a couple different sizes. If you have enough paintbrushes that you want to use one for each color, that works great, but you can always have a cup of water to rinse in between. I also have a plastic spoon. I have an old toothbrush. Make sure you don't get mixed up and use this toothbrush to brush your teeth later. This is an old one that I don't use for brushing my teeth anymore. And I also have some plastic straws. I actually cut this in half. This is a longer straw that I cut shorter, a little easier for smaller hands to work with. And then you don't have to blow as hard. We're going to use this not to suck up things like you would if you're drinking, but to blow air. You might also have other tools around your home that you can use, like droppers or pipettes if you have something like that. But anything like these will work. Of course, you could also use your fingers if you want. Besides that, I have some paper towel here to help me keep things a little dry. Yeah, so let's get started. What I'm going to do first is with my runny paint. So as I mentioned, the blue is ready to go. I've added some water to it. Stir it up. I'll start with maybe my spoon, and we're just going to splash color right onto our paper, similar to the way that we saw in that print earlier when we visited that San Francis piece. And I'm just kind of scooping it out. You can see I'm dripping it. I'm letting the drops fall all over. You can see I made some lines similar to the print that we were looking at. And that already looks really nice, I think. But what I can do from here is I can add some more motion by getting out my straw, and I'm gonna just blow out through my straw at these kind of bigger um, blobs of paint. Let's see what happens. And you can also move around or rotate your paper so that you can blow in different directions. Rotate it one more time. And you can see I moved my blobs around a little bit. And I'm actually seeing that maybe I need to thin out my paint even a little bit more because my blobs are just kind of getting more spread out. But if I add a little more water, which I'm going to do here very carefully, that'll help it get a little runnier. And you can experiment too. You can see what kind of consistency works well for you. Let's try a little bit of this just in this corner. And let's try blowing on that again. Ah, there we go. Now that I have it a little runnier, you can see where the paint moves all around where I'm blowing it. And if I change directions, then I get more of those kind of splatter effects. All right, let's try another color and let's use a different tool. So this time I'm going to use one of my small paintbrushes. I have my red watercolor paint that I squeezed into my cup and I added some water. And I'm just going to swirl around until I get my paintbrush nice and saturated. And all I'm going to do is hold this right above my paper and just shake it straight down. I'm going to get some more splatters and you can see that, how it's layering over my blue. Another technique you can try if you don't want to just flick your wrist, although that works great as you can see. You can also use another paintbrush or a pencil or something else and you can tap your brush that has the paint on it. And that's going to get a finer spray. Let's see, can you see that? So the bigger blobs are what I did by just shaking my wrist with the paintbrush above the paper. And then when I tapped my paintbrush onto another paintbrush, I got those really teeny tiny dots, almost more like a spray of my red paint. Ooh, I really like how that looks. Another way we can make spray effects is using our toothbrush. So I'm gonna get my yellow paint and what I'm doing is I'm just tilting this, of course, not all the way down so it doesn't pour out, but I'm tilting it at an angle so I can get the bristles of my brush all saturated with the paint. Let it drip out. And then I'm holding it above and I'm just going to flick my finger gently over the bristles. Oop, it's already splattering a little. That actually looks really cool. But let's see what happens when I flick the bristles with my finger. All right. Ooh, I'm getting a really nice spray effect with this. Take a look. You can see the yellow spray all over. As I hold it up, it's dripping down a little bit, which I actually like that effect. But you can see that fine, misty kind of spray that we're getting from the toothbrush. Oops. And we're just going to kind of repeat doing these different motions. Think about that print we were looking at earlier. Some parts had just a tiny little spray of color, some parts had lines, and some parts we had big areas of color. So you might want to alternate shaking your paintbrush in the air above your paper with also painting the way we normally would. So I'm going to take this nice bright green paint. It hasn't even been watered down yet. And I'm just going to add some green lines and shapes similar to the San Francis print. So we have a mix of different kinds of marks. I'll show you how that looks. So here's my green areas. And now that I've done that, maybe I want to add some water to my green tempera paint. And all right, so mix that in there. All right, I really like this bright green. Okay, it's nice and runny now, so I'm gonna get my brush. I'm gonna just drip my paint all over. Maybe I'll make more of those kind of lines if I can. I'm gonna like flick. You can try different ways of moving your brush so you can just like flick it with your wrist straight down. You can also like kind of sweep through the air and make kind of a U shape or W shape. Let it drip a whole bunch. I'll show you how that looks. There's my green drips. And now maybe I'll get my straw again and I'll blow some of the drips around so that they get even splashier looking. Let's try it. All right. What do you think? Do you see how the splashes are going in all different directions? And actually, if I turn it the other way, maybe gravity will pull down some of my drips so they're going the other way. Maybe I'll hold it this way too. Again, you can see this did get a little messy, so I'm really glad I used my cookie sheet. And if you're outside in the grass in your yard or at the park, I think this one would be really fun. Don't forget to get some rocks or something else heavy to weigh down the edges of your paper in case it's a little bit windy if you do this outside. But I think you'll find that this is really fun. A lot of very accessible ways to make marks. Even if you're just scooping with a spoon and splashing, that works great. If you want to get a little finger painting in there, that's really fun too. So I hope you give it a try and you have a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me to look at and make splashy, splattery, colorful paintings today. I hope you had fun and we'll see you next month. Bye!